People do not generally like this demand, but one who cultivates spiritual knowledge from many births eventually surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Lord. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate. Text 24. Stealing or cheating another person out of his money, the conditioned soul somehow or other keeps it in his possession and escapes punishment. Then another man named Devadatta cheats him and takes the money away. Similarly, another man named Vishnumitra steals the money from Devadatta and takes it away. In any case, the money does not stay in one place. It passes from one hand to another. Ultimately, no one can enjoy the money, and it remains the property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, very beautiful purport. So, let's pay attention. Riches come from Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. And the goddess of fortune is the property of Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The goddess of fortune cannot stay anywhere but by the side of Narayana. Therefore, another of her names is Chanchala, restless. She cannot be peaceful unless she is in the company of her husband, Narayana. For example, Lakshmi was carried away by the materialistic Ravana. Ravana kidnapped Sita, the goddess of fortune belonging to Lord Rama. As a result, Ravana's entire family, opulence, and kingdom were smashed. And Sita, the goddess of fortune, was recovered from his clutches and reunited with Lord Rama. Thus, all property, riches, and wealth belong to Krishna, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, text 29. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the true beneficiary of all the sacrifices and austerities, and He is the supreme proprietor of all the planetary systems. Foolish materialistic people collect money and steal from others, thieves, but they cannot keep it. In any case, it must be spent. One person cheats another person cheats someone else. Therefore, the best way to possess Lakshmi is to keep her by the side of Narayana. This is the point of the Krishna consciousness movement. We worship Lakshmi, Radharani, along with Narayana, Krishna. We collect money from various sources, but that money does not belong to anyone but Radha Krishna, Lakshmi Narayana. If money is utilized in the service of Lakshmi Narayana, the devotee automatically lives in an opulent way. However, if one wants to enjoy Lakshmi the way Ravana did, he will be vanquished by the laws of nature, and whatever few possessions he has will be taken away. Finally, death will take everything away, and death is the representative of Krishna. Om Agyan Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarvyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Keith and Zach, do you know of the Ramayana? Have you heard of the Ramayana? How about you, Keith? This whole purport was about the story of Ramayana, so if the audience wouldn't mind, I'll summarize. You do. I'll summarize Ramayana for purification, I guess. Yesterday, we heard about the 4 regulative principles and what they mean. What they mean on a grosser level, in day-to-day practical terms, and what they mean as principles to live by. Siddhartha Prabhu asked a question, How do you know? It doesn't seem like you're not following or you're following, but it seems like a more continuous variable where, little tiny things that we do and don't do, or think and don't think, that seems to move us towards the cliff. And so we'll pick up from there that everything begins as a little tiny thought or desire. And regardless of who one is, unless one is an absolutely pure devotee, we can be fairly confident that some materialistic desire will arise in our minds. Because we have a material body. So even if we are devotees, material thoughts may arise. But the difference between a devotee of Krishna and one who's not a spiritualist is this: that a devotee of Krishna will not pursue the thought further. His intelligence is sufficiently awakened to be able to discriminate and say no. That discriminatory power in Sanskrit is called viveka. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, there are this couplet of verses, 62 and 63, where Krishna talks about the 8 steps of a downfall of a person. And it begins with contemplating on the objects of the senses. Boy, wouldn't that be nice if I had that object? And the thought arises because we have these 5 senses, and the 5 senses are contacting the different material elements, right? With our eyes, we want to see nice things. With our ears, we want to hear nice things. With our tongue, we want to taste nice things. With our skin, we want to touch. With our nose, we want to smell nice things. No one wants to smell bad things. Some persons do. So these desires, then as the sense objects contact the senses, the mind gets, wow, wouldn't it be nice if? And that's called contemplation. And then Krishna describes that from contemplation, the desire becomes like a feeling and a willingness to follow that. From there, it develops into lust. Lust means this overpowering urge to do it, whatever it is. And from there, anger arises because we can never get all that we want. I mean, if we haven't come to that conclusion, better to come to it. And then from anger, delusion awakens, like we're confused like anything. From delusion, memory is lost. The intelligence gets completely undone. Krishna says, buddhi nasha, it gets destroyed. And a person actually follows that mental impulse and does something silly, something materialistic. In the next 2 verses, Krishna describes, however, a person in Krishna consciousness is freed from this push and pull of the mind. Raga desha vimukta istu. And he doesn't succumb to the urges of the senses. Atma vasher, he has a sense of control over his urges. Atma vasher indriyat vidhe atma. He is under the jurisdiction of higher order. He is under the jurisdiction of scripture, of the spiritual master. So that's what holds him back. Oh, this is something my guru will not like. This is something Krishna will not like. I cannot do. And that purport Prabhupada says, If Krishna wants something from the devotee, he will do even if it is undesirable. And if Krishna does not want him to do something, even if it is very desirable for him, he will not do. So the criteria for doing something or not doing something is not whether I like or don't like, but if Krishna would want me or Krishna would like or not like. And for such a person, Krishna says, prasadam adhigacchati. He gets a ton of mercy from Krishna. So we can take it fairly, I guess, for granted that we all have some mental urge to doing something that may not be necessarily favorable for our Krishna consciousness. And so the checking influence is, will Krishna like this? And when we consider like that and live like that, a ton of mercy flows in our direction. And what's that mercy? Krishna says, a person's intelligence, buddhi, paryavatishtate. The intelligence becomes well established. So we were talking about the regulative principles, and we talked about the 4 yesterday. And when we talked about cleanliness, I forgot to mention something. And that is connected to this purport. So Krishna is very kind. Cleanliness is, we say, external cleanliness and internal cleanliness. External cleanliness means taking at least one bath in a day. For college students, cleanliness means taking a bath at least once a week. But at least once a day. Or taking a bath every time we pass stool is proper to take a bath. Unlike in modern context, people go to the bathrooms, they wipe themselves with paper. Some people wash their hands, some people don't even. Therefore, there are notices in the bathrooms. Have you noticed? Employees must wash their hands with soap. Why is the notice there? Because people don't. Then they come out and they shake our hands. Nice to meet you. We shake their hands. We don't know where the hand has been. It's terrible. And we go to lunch right after that. This is very nice. And have you noticed when they eat, after they eat, the habit is not to wash the hand. They wipe it with paper. And they're done. And that's supposed to be clean. And these persons will say, the third world countries are so dirty. Everything is that. What is this? You go to the bathroom, don't take a bath. You eat, don't wash your hand. That's clean. And these things happen right one after the other, So external cleanliness, there are some Vedic standards of cleanliness. Taking a bath after going to the bathroom. There are many. If I list that list of cleanliness criteria, we'll be here till about 9 o'clock at night. But there are quite a few. And internal cleanliness, Prabhupada says, comes from chanting of Krishna's name. Therefore, we all chant Hare Krishna. We try to live by the qualities of mercy, tolerance, forgiveness. These are all contributing to internal cleanliness. Another is this purport, text 23. When the mind is free of fruitive tendency, it is said to be clean. As long as the mind is colored with fruitive tendency, and I'll explain what that is for our friends here. As long as the mind is influenced by fruitive tendency, it is said to be unclean. In Rishabdev's prayers or instructions, this particular verse comes. Evam mana karma prayukte avidyaya atmani upadhiyamane pritirna yavat mai vasudeve namuchyate deha yogena tavat. And before that verse is the verse about karmatmakam yena sharira bandha. The mind is called karmatmaka, means filled with fruitive tendency. So what is fruitive tendency? This thinking is called fruitive tendency. To think that I am the cause of what is happening. Because a person has a controller tendency. He thinks that he controls his environment. True? Yeah. We think we control our environment. So a person thinks that he is the cause of the outcome. And number two, the outcome belongs to him because he's the cause of it. So if someone works and does something, let's say they create something or they build something, they think, I have done it. And because I have done it, this belongs to me. So they will want to enjoy it naturally because they have done it. So they might sell it or they might exhibit it, and people will come and say, what a nice job. And that's the source of my pleasure. I feel so good when others acknowledge and appreciate what I have done. Or the money that comes from it, that is mine because I worked hard for it. This is called fruitive mentality. Another aspect of fruitive mentality is to expect from others. We carry in our relationships with everyone certain expectations. Correct? That expectations are, I have done something for you, and now I expect you to either return the favor, minimally acknowledge it, or return the favor, or reciprocate back. I've been nice to you, why can't you be nice to me? This is called expectations. These are material. And a person who carries material expectations, he is bound to be disappointed. That's what Krishna is saying. From expectations arise desires. And from desires, they end up being disappointing. So in any relationship, having expectation, oh, you should do this after all, is disappointing. And we take that to Krishna also. Krishna, I'm serving you so much, you should do this for me. Can you not take care of me? Well, this is not love. This is, Prabhupada would say, business transaction. I do something for you, you do something for me. Devotional service or bhakti is not a business transaction. It's an expression of love. And love means unconditional love. I do for you. Whether you do something for me or not is not relevant. Because I love you. I do for you. This is how Krishna operates with us. He's been in our heart. He has made all these wonderful arrangements for us. And we hardly even acknowledge that. Every day He gives us intelligence, memory. He's guiding us. He has made so many arrangements for heat, light, electricity, water, food. Everything is set up, for example. But people hardly acknowledge that. In fact, we're the ones who are stone-hearted, and He's the live person. But we see it as, oh, you're stone and I'm really live. It's not like that. We are stone-hearted. We expect things from Krishna. I sang kirtan for you. I chanted so many rounds. Where's the mercy, Prabhu? This is fruitive mentality, material expectations. And these material expectations, or fruitive mentality, is considered uncleanliness of the mind. Another dimension of the uncleanliness of the mind is looking for material happiness, or looking for happiness as we know it, even within bhakti. We wait for others to appreciate us, acknowledge us. If we have done something, they should at least say, nice service, Prabhu, etc. These are all material. And these disturb, because when we get them, we get so carried away. And we don't get them, we get so upset, so disappointed. But here Prabhupada writes, not knowing the value of life. He used the word karmi. Karmi means a person who's working very hard simply for some material gain. The devotees, as devotees, we work very hard for spiritual gain. And that spiritual gain means make Krishna be happy. It doesn't matter if I'm happy or not, because if Krishna is happy, I'm automatically happy. This is called spiritual gain. It doesn't come about easily. It comes about by training, by hearing, and by living a life that fosters such consciousness. He says, but karmis create situations whereby they suffer in this life and in the next. And because they're looking for material happiness, the karmis, they try to manipulate the circumstances in their favor. So we notice that people are always trying to adjust the circumstances to their favor, and they end up being disappointed. They cannot appreciate the miserable condition of life, neither in this life nor in the next. Therefore, the Vedas say that one should awaken spiritual consciousness and utilize his activities to attain the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is how to become free from fruitive mentality, is to rewire our consciousness, to rewire our what we call sense of expectations. So Krishna says, Yat karoshi, whatever you do, Yad ashnasi, whatever you eat, Yad juhoshi, whatever you offer, Yad dadasi, whatever you give away as charity, Yat tapasyashi, whatever austerities you perform, you do it as an offering unto me. Tad kurushva madarpanam. This is a formula for becoming free of fruitive mentality. So Prabhupada says that when we cultivate such a consciousness, our doorway for what we say spiritual happiness opens up. Therefore, you notice that whenever some devotee does something and you even appreciate, nice job, thank you for doing such a nice service. The first response is, but this is Krishna's mercy. Is Krishna engaged me in this service? I'm very honored to be of some service to Krishna. And if Krishna is pleased, that's all I need. Sometimes we don't mean it, but we say it. That's good, because as we continue saying it, we'll mean it someday. A devotee came to Srila Prabhupada and he said he was not dancing. All the devotees were dancing. So Srila Prabhupada asked him, why are you not dancing? He said, I don't feel inspired to dance. And Prabhupada said, if you dance, you'll become inspired. So we say things, it is Krishna's mercy, it is Krishna's mercy. We may not mean it. We may mean it. If we mean it, fantastic. If we don't, still fantastic. Because as we say Krishna's mercy, it awakens us to thinking, yeah, it is actually Krishna's mercy. So we should develop that habit, that any appreciation that comes our way, that we pass it on to Krishna. It's Krishna's mercy. It's my Guru's mercy. It's the devotee's mercy. Regardless, the same thing. Then our mind becomes free of that burden of fruitive mentality. Naturally, right? What is heavier? A huge boulder on our back or a very bothering thought in the mind? Subtle things are powerful. So a bothering thought is heavier than a boulder. I'll tell you why. Because a boulder not everyone can carry, but a thought is there with everyone. So it's more powerful. Physically, I may not carry. I can't carry anything. But thoughts are there. So the next purport, so that was about cleanliness. And now it's about money. They say money is the honey. And I'll quickly go through the purport and I'll narrate Ramayana story. So what basically Prabhupada is saying that a person in this material world, he works very, very hard to gain money. If he cannot gain it by hard work, he gains it by cheating. If he cannot gain it by cheating, he gains it by stealing. That's why you say beg, borrow, or steal. Because the urge for having money is so strong that a person will go to any extent to get it. But he doesn't realize the principle on which wealth operates. He says wealth is an energy or potency of Krishna. She is the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. And the goddess of fortune is the wife of Narayana, Krishna. So a wife, now we're not talking in the modern context, we're talking in the context of the principle, that a wife feels safe in the company of her husband. In the modern context, it may not be applicable, but the wife feels safe in the company of her husband. And if other men try to lure her, she doesn't go. So Lakshmi, who's the wife of Narayana, all persons in this world, they pray to her, please come to my house, please stay with me. And they don't call Krishna, you can also come. They don't care so much for Krishna. So Prabhupada would say, if you tell a wife, someone else's wife, you come to my house, your husband is not necessary. And she's a chaste wife, will she go? No. So people have the whole formula backwards. But if you call the husband, you call Krishna, please come to my house, will she come along with him? Of course. So they got the formula wrong. They go for Lakshmi. They should go for Narayana, actually. And then here's something about wealth. Prabhupada says she's chanchala. Money doesn't stay in anyone's hand for long. Have you noticed? If not, here's the principle. Okay, there's a $1 bill. How many hands would that $1 bill change? Millions of hands. And with who is the $1 bill? Actually with nobody. Correct? Let's take a starting point. Let's say we work for a company and the company has money. Many $1 bills. So I work very hard and at the end of the month I'm paid. I'm paid that $1. Here is your $1. So that money has moved from the hands of the company to my hands. I come out of my office, and what will I do with the money? I have to do something with it, right? Prabhupada says, it cannot be kept, it has to be spent, because I get hungry, I get thirsty, I need a house. So if I'm hungry, I have to eat something. So I have to buy food. So I buy food, and I give that $1 away. Of course, not everybody eats their whole salary, but we're just talking as a theoretical example here. So that $1 goes from my hand to the grocer's hand. Now the grocer needs to stock his store. So he has to buy something, right? So he goes out to the market and he buys things and he pays that $1 and buys his merchandise. The person who's the wholesaler, he has to buy from the farmer. So he pays the farmer and he takes the food. The farmer has to buy grain, machinery, whatever, he pays someone else. So that $1 keeps moving. It's never in anyone's hands. And finally it comes, comes to the customer, and the customer wants to buy the products of that company, And they pay the company, and the company pays the man or me, and it keeps moving again. So this is the nature of money. It's always moving. It never stays. Because people treat money separately from Krishna. So she's called Chanchala. Chanchala means fidgety, cannot be in one place. But if Krishna is there, then she doesn't move. Now it doesn't mean that Krishna's money we're not spending and all. But what Prabhupada's giving us the principle is, when Krishna is served, then money comes. We don't have to try very hard for it to come. It comes. So, as Prabhupada taught us, if you're finding financial difficulty or something is tight, you pray to Krishna. Or just serve, don't even pray to Krishna, just serve Krishna nicely for Krishna's happiness. And you will see that things come. Now, many of us who are living here, we are not financially well off, right? In fact, except a few, most of us don't have a job. But the kind of lunch we eat, the kind of lifestyle we live, free of worries for most of us, is rare. You can't get it anywhere. Shyamasundar Prabhu, who is a disciple of Prabhupada, he narrates a story. There are many such stories. I think I have time to narrate two. There was a time in 1966, 67, when they had opened another center in Haight-Ashbury, the capital of the hippie, hippie land, if you will. There were a few devotees living, and they had a center that they had to manage. They had to pay rent, they had to buy flowers, grocery, and they didn't have any money. The temple president, Jayananda Prabhu, he would serve all day, and he would drive a taxi cab all night. And when he would drive, whatever money he would get, he would bring and give for Krishna's service. He never kept a penny of it. And so much so that he was driving a cab all night, that in the morning, during Bhagavatam class, he'd be asleep. Many of us can relate to that. And Prabhupada would wake everyone else up, don't sleep, don't sleep. But when it came to Jayananda, he would say, let him sleep. This boy has been working very hard for Krishna. So if he can drive a taxi cab all night, we can also sleep in Bhagavatam class. So anyway, he would give all his money away. And there was another couple who had a tiny job, something. They gave all their money away to Krishna. Still, their expenses were more than what they were getting. So as Prabhupada taught them, Shyamasundar Prabhu and Mother Malati and the devotees, they came in front of Krishna and they prayed, my dear Krishna, we are not able to maintain our service to you. We are very sorry that we are not able to serve you properly because we are very tight on money. Please forgive us. Please somehow help us that we can serve you nicely. One day, Shyamasundar Prabhu and Malati Mataji were walking from their little apartment to the temple for morning service. And as they were walking, he describes that $100 bills started flying from somewhere, from the sky. They were dropping. And they looked around if someone was dropping. There was nobody. Those $100 bills were flying down, one after the other, one after the other. So they nicely collected all that money, paid off all their bills, and took care of all their expenses. Just from nowhere, $100 bills started showering. Krishna takes care. Krishna takes care of those who serve him. He is promised in the Bhagavad Gita, I will personally take care. There's another story. In Paris, Srila Prabhupada was about to arrive the next day, and the temple president was Harivilas Prabhu. And they had about $1,000 or something, or whatever, or less than that. And they had used all that money to buy flowers for Krishna. Whatever last penny that they had, they'd spent everything, and they had zero in the bank. And next day Prabhupada was coming. How to serve? They have to rent a car for Prabhupada. They have to manage how to buy a bhoga, fruits and vegetables for Krishna. How do you do this? How do you pay your bills? So he was in great anxiety. So that morning, Mangalarati morning, he was chanting in front of the deities. This was right before Mangalarati. That, my dear Krishna, how do we serve you? We are really in great difficulty. I'm sorry to make things inconvenient for you like this. There's no money. So he was chanting with his eyes closed. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. After a while, he just opened his eyes. There was a brown paper bag on the altar. So he thought someone may have come, but it's like 4 o'clock in the morning. No one was there. So he quietly walked up, opened the brown paper bag. It was a stack of French currency, like in hundreds, like a stack. Then he thought maybe someone must have left it here. So he kept it with him, saying, when they come, I'll return it to them. And believe it or not, yesterday I found a stack of money on the hundi box yesterday. And I'm sure it's not Krishna who left it. It's one of our forgetful devotees who must have forgotten. Either way. So he found a stack of money. And he thought, okay, they'll come. So Mangalarti happened, Japa period happened, 7 o'clock Arati. No one came. Finally, at 9 o'clock, he realized this is Krishna's gift. And immediately, Prabhupada was supposed to come by 1 o'clock. So between that time and 11 o'clock, they spent all the money buying fruits and vegetables and flowers for serving Krishna. So Krishna takes care. But money, by nature, stays where Krishna is satisfied. That's the principle. So Prabhupada narrates the story of the Ramayana. So for our friends here, Zach and Keith. Ramayana is the story of Lord Ram. So in the Hare Krishna mantra, there is Hare Rama, Hare Rama. So Rama is an incarnation of Krishna who appeared in the Dvapara Yuga. Dvapara Yuga is 2 ages before us. Ours is Kali Yuga, according to the Vedic calendar. According to the Vedic calendar, time moves cyclically, or cyclically, as they say. And there are 4 divisions of time, or eras, if you will. The Satya Yuga, the Dvapara Yuga, Treta, and Kali. In one of the cycles, the 2 get switched anyway, that's technical. But there are 4 eras of time. And combined together, that's 1 unit called 4 million, 1 unit made of 4,320,000 years. And 1 day of Brahma is 1,000 such cycles. That's 4,320,000,000 years is 1 day of Brahma. And our Brahma, who's the first person in the universe, he lives for 100 such years. So 4,320,000,000 times 2 to make it a 24-hour period, times 360 to make it 1 year, times 100 to make 1 lifetime. It totals up to about 311 trillion something. And we live for how many years? Barely 80. We make it to 80, we fall into Ripley's Believe It or Not. So in the Treta Yuga, Lord Ramachandra appeared. He appears in every yuga. And the pastime is that Lord Ram was the oldest of 4 princes in the house of King Dasharath. And Dasharath had 3 wives, and these 4 sons were born to these 3 wives. His youngest wife, Kaikeyi, became a little envious that oldest son Rama was going to be the king. He was the prince regent. So she said to her husband, no, my son Bharata should become the king. And he was devastated. And he had owed her 2 promises. So she asked him to fulfill those promises at that time. So he found himself between a rock and a hard place. The rock and the hard place was, on one hand, he loved his son Rama. He wanted him to be the king. And the other side, he was henpecked. His wife said, you must do this, and he didn't know what to do about it. He had to do it because he had promised her. So he didn't know how to deal with it. The pain was too much that he had a heart attack and he died. But he did say that Rama cannot be the king. And the second wish that she had was, not only should he not be the king, he should be banished into the forest for 14 years. 13 years. 14 years. So Rama left. His brother Lakshmana said, I will follow you. And actually his wife Sita, she went with him to the forest. So from living in a palace, very next day, Lord Rama wore tree bark, gave up all his royal garments and jewelry and all his opulence, and walked bare feet into the forest and for 14 years. And in those forests, while it was nice, environment and all of that, there were a lot of troubles. And before the final year, before the 14th year started, there was a demon by the name Ravana who used to live in Lanka. He had heard about Sita's beauty. And just hearing about her beauty, his lusty desires awakened to such a degree that he had decided that he is going to kidnap Rama's wife. So there was thunder. So he came up with a plan. He sent one of his friends to get into disguise as a golden deer and distract the husband. And so the wife would be at home all by herself. And when she's all by herself, she would be a perfect victim to kidnap. So the deer ran away. Lord Ramachandra pursued it. He tried to... that's actually another demon. The golden deer was another demon. And the demon was like a decoy. It distracted Lord Ramachandra. Lakshmana pursued. And Sita was all alone at home. And Ravana came in the disguise of a sage. And sages were supposed to be very gentle. So her guards were down. And he immediately grabbed her hand and kidnapped her and flew from where they were in Panchavati all the way to Lanka. So naturally, Lord Ramachandra was searching for his wife everywhere, and he didn't know where to look for her. So their search brought them down to different places. They met different persons who said, ask the next person, and somehow the search came to a place called Kishkinda, which was the kingdom of monkeys. So the king of the monkeys, Sugriva, and his minister, Hanuman, they promised to search for Sita Devi in return of a favor. The favor was Sugriva's brother, Vali, had also forcibly taken away Sugriva's kingdom. So Lord Rama said, all right, I'll help you get your kingdom back. You help me get my wife back. We'll have to send out search parties. So true to his word, Lord Ramachandra, there's a long story, killed Vali, the brother, and gave the kingdom back. And Sugriva forgot his promise. He was so happy that he got his kingdom that he was reveling in alcohol and enjoying himself to such a degree that he forgot. Then Lakshmana goes on behalf of Rama and he warns Sugriva, if you don't meet your end of the deal, Lord Ramachandra will be very upset. And Lakshmana said, I will kill you. So Sugriva came to his senses and sent all his monkeys and bears in all four directions to search for Sita Devi. A party went north, a party went east, a party went west, a party went south. And the party that went south had Hanuman. So they came to the very end, the southernmost end of India. And they hadn't found Sita. But they found an old vulture who told them that I saw Ravana carry Sita, and Ravana lives across the sea on an island called Lanka. And that was 100 miles away. So they had to send a reconnaissance mission, a drone, if you will, a manned drone. how to get there, to survey Lanka. So different monkeys said, well, I don't have the capacity to jump 100 miles. One said, I can jump, but I don't know how to get back. And Hanuman was chosen. You are very capable. You should go. So Hanuman jumps from here to Lanka. And then he reduces himself in small size. And he's spying. He's trying to find Sita. He couldn't find her anywhere. He searched the palaces. He searched the gardens and all. He couldn't find her. Finally, there was one place called the Ashokavana, where he found Sita sitting under a tree, crying, her body emaciated, and feeling loss of Lord Ramachandra's company. Then he meets her. Then she's very happy, and he tells her, I can take you back right now. She says, no, Lord Rama should come and take me back. That's the greatest honor for me and for him as well. So Hanuman flies back, and he conveys to Lord Ramachandra, I've met Sita Devi. She's in Lanka, captured by Ravana. So Rama, he doesn't have any army except for gazillions of monkeys. So he takes his monkey army, and he wants to now cross the ocean. But how do you cross an ocean? They don't have enough boats to take them there. So they build a bridge. And because Lord Ramachandra is God, he has the potency that they throw massive mountain tops and peaks into the ocean, and everything floats. Prabhupada says, what scientists are we? We cannot make a stone float. Even if it's a tiny pebble, we can't make it float. But these mountain peaks and boulders, they were thrown into the ocean, and everything floated. If you ever get a chance to go to South India, this place is called Rameshwaram. And that bridge is still there under the ocean bed, or on the ocean bed. And even today, there are stones this big. You put it in a bucket of water and they float. Still those stones are there. They float in water because of Lord Ramachandra's potency. So anyway, they made this bridge. The whole army went that side. They fought with Ravana and his demon army. They killed Ravana, and they brought Sita Devi back. It's a beautiful, beautiful pastime of Lord Ramachandra. Fantastic. It doesn't matter who it is, whether it's a child, whether it's Caucasian, African American, Chinese, Indian. It doesn't matter. When you narrate the details of Ramayana, it is so captivating. It is so captivating, you cannot believe it. Lord Rama is very, very amazing. So that's the picture of Lord Ramachandra on the wall there. Lord Rama, Sita sitting next to him, Lakshmana standing, and Hanuman, his monkey servant. So that's the pastime, and Prabhupada is writing in the purport that Ravana was so lusty that he wanted to enjoy wealth without the proprietor of the wealth, Lord Ramachandra. And his life got destroyed for separating Sita Devi from Lord Ramachandra. And as devotees, our whole purpose is to unite Krishna and Radha, is to unite Sita and Ram. So Sita represents all of Krishna's potencies, Ramachandra's potencies. So wealth, all the elements, they're all wealth of Krishna. And we try to bring everything in Krishna's service. So we are acting like assistants of Hanuman, because we behave also like that. We're kind of bungling and we make mistakes. And therefore, it's monkey-like. Our minds are too restless. Have you ever seen a monkey sitting down and in meditation? Monkey is too restless. So he represents the conditioned soul, too restless. And Ramachandra used us, monkeys, to fulfill his will. So that's the life of a devotee, to bring everything into the fold of, to bring everything into the service of Krishna and make our lives perfect. Any questions? Keith or Zach or anyone? Any questions? Zach, and then Srinath. Okay, you're welcome.
I've seen the cartoon version of that, and the way that you just explained it, it really makes so much more sense.
I gave you like a super abridged version.
With the idea of the monkeys being us, the devotees, with our minds always flickering here and there.
Yeah, restless.
So thank you.
Oh, that was a comment? Okay, thank you. Anything, Keith? Oh, Srinath, and then...
Thank you, Prabhuji, for yesterday and today's class. I mean, in the light of your narration and your teachings, I can see like we are full of flaws. So do Krishna and the representative of Krishna, see us flawless, becoming flawless? And in what way we can actually become flawless? Because apparently we are more into externals than being internalizing things.
If we see ourselves full of flaws, and does Krishna see us flawless?
No,
then we would have more insight than Krishna. No, Krishna does not see us as flawless. But this is how Krishna and Guru see us. Here is the soul, who's a tiny part of Krishna. And that soul is flawless. But that soul, for some unfortunate reason, has turned away from Krishna. And because he has turned away from Krishna, he is now sitting in a material body, or inhabiting a material body. And that material body brings about all the sense of flaw. Because this soul, who's innocent and pure by nature, is now misunderstanding that there is happiness outside of his relationship with Krishna. And is struggling very hard to find it. Oh, what an unfortunate condition. And so somehow they make arrangements for us to engage in the process of bhakti, so that we will come out of this tabernacle, as they say, this confinement of a material body and mind, and regain our true spiritual nature. And naturally it not only takes time, it takes a little stumbling here and there, a little fall, a trip, a bruised nose, because we need to learn our way back. It's like practicing. The other day I was giving the example of physiotherapy. That suppose there's, from a healthy condition, we have an accident or something happens, the particular limb breaks, then to be able to avoid that pain, persons twist their leg or hip in a particular way which adjusts to not having that pain. But that's not, and so they sometimes limp or walk in a different way just to avoid that pain. But the physiotherapist will adjust all of that. And is it easy? Anyone gone through physiotherapy? Yeah. Is it easy? No, it's painful. But within that is to regain the original way of how things should work. So sometimes bhakti, we find ourselves like painful. Wow, what is this? But it's not only physiotherapy, it's psychotherapy and soul therapy, whatever you want to call it, to bring us back to our original nature that is free from all of this confinement. So that's how Krishna and Guru see things. Pure soul, stuck in a bad place, stuck in the material world. It's not like we're flawless. Our nature is that we're flawless, but we're stuck in a wrong conception. We have a wrong idea of happiness. Glenn, and then...
You're a wonderful storyteller, even when you make it short. Thank you. My mother used to tell me, if she saw me doing something...
I remind you of your mother?
Pardon? I won't answer that. In all the good ways. my mother would say, if she saw me doing something she thought would lead me the wrong way, she'd say, nip it in the bud, Glenn, nip it in the bud.
Nip it in the bud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you mention that, even for devotees, material thoughts arise, if you could say something about how we can get at that.
In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text number 70, Krishna gives that example. Apuryamanam achalam pratishtam. That he gives the analogy of an ocean. He says an ocean has millions of rivers running into it and constantly filling it with water, right? But the ocean never crosses its shore. It's able to contain all of it within. And so he says, similarly, the mind of a yogi is that there must be so many things happening, the different impulses entering the mind, but he never crosses the limit. So he knows how to observe the thoughts that are going, but not pursue them, because his intelligence keeps him focused on his service to Krishna. So you can go refer to that verse and study in the Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktalup. I'm sorry, I'm giving you short answers because we're running out of time. I'm happy to discuss outside of.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. You're mentioning the need to carry on in our devotional service or dance in the kirtan, many different things, even if we're not feeling particularly inspired at the moment. How do we understand and deal with niyamagraha, like doing things just by routine or mechanically? How can we avoid
Niyamagraha is
that
not doing something
pitfall?
mechanically. Niyamagraha means following the rules for the sake of the rules, or neglecting the rules just because I'm whimsical. But it doesn't mean to do something mechanically. Because along with niyamagraha, we are also asked satovrite. So niyamagraha doesn't stay sort of in a vacuum. There is satovrite as well. And satovrite means following in the footsteps of the previous devotees, acharyas. So do like they do, and do like they ask us to do. That's called satovrite. That protects us from niyamagraha. Niyamagraha allows for, or niyamagraha allows for whimsical behavior. Whimsical behavior is, today I feel like, right now I don't feel like. That's whimsical behavior. So satovrite corrects that, or protects one from being whimsical. So when Prabhupada said, dance and you'll feel inspired, means you follow the method described by the acharyas. You dance in kirtan. Inspiration will come. Okay. Prabhupada was teaching the person how to gain Krishna's mercy. Gaining Krishna's mercy means serving not because I like or I don't like. Serving because Guru has asked and it is pleasing to Krishna. He was taking him to that place. And sometimes we do things mechanically. Krishna knows, and thankfully he is called bhavagrahi. He is the one who takes the essence of things, or he takes the intention. So we do things mechanically all the time. And that's part of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. There's mechanical, it happens. It's all right. Krishna sees that at least he's trying. I mean, that's our saving grace. Otherwise, where would we be? Krishna says, at least he's trying. The Guru thinks, at least they're trying. When the Vanaras were building building the bridge, the monkeys were building the bridge. Ramachandra, at least they're trying. And because they were trying, the mountain peaks were floating. Krishna was there, no, as Lord Ramachandra. He was sustaining the whole thing. I mean, the Acharyas, if you want to get into Ramayana, the Acharyas asked this question. Oh, hold on a second. If Hanuman can jump 800 miles, 100 yojanas, and he knows that the only reason he's able to jump because he's reciting Lord Rama's name. He's Rama, 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 and if he can make Hanuman fly, he himself could not do it. He can easily flown, and he'd have flown with all the monkeys there. Why did he have to build a bridge? It's described that when he called the god of the ocean to help, he didn't come. Either he didn't have his cell phone on or something, he was out of range or something. He didn't come. So Lord Ramachandra became upset. And he stared at the ocean. And it's described that as soon as he stared, the entire ocean started boiling. You cook in the kitchen, you boil water, you help Vishwakarma boil water in just a little pot of water. For Krishna lunch, this pot of water. You have to boil the water. How long does it take? Boy. He only glanced and the entire ocean started boiling. Oh, he came, I'm very sorry, I missed the call. My phone was not there. Sorry. So Lord Ramachandra said, next time don't put it on vibrate mode. Make sure you hear it. And he said, okay, whatever you throw, I'll make sure it'll float. Why? Why all this? So Acharyas described, it is to give Samudra Deva, to give the monkeys, everyone some service to do. It's not like he's helpless. After all, he is the one who's floating everything. To give us some service. So Krishna doesn't need anything from us. He gives us opportunities to serve him for our own benefit. And he helps us all the way. So when we do things mechanically, he says, at least they're trying. That's nice. Let me help him. Not that we sustain our bhakti on mechanical execution, but at least they're trying. And we don't settle down for, I heard in Bhagavatam class, Krishna, at least I'm trying, you should be nice to me. But we try to bring in our actions the real spiritual emotions as well, that this is, I'm trying to offer to you with as much love and humility that I can extract out of myself for your pleasure. That is bhakti. Is that okay? Okay, thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Kali Yuga flowers.